Good morning, children, and once again, welcome back to our English class. I hope you all must be doing good. Children, let us now come to page number 143 of your English Oxford Reader, Unit 4 The Wonder Years, Section 2 The Scholarship Jacket, written by Marta Salinas. Let us now read the remaining portion of the story. I walked back to the house and locked myself in the bathroom for a long time. I was angry with Grandpa, even though I knew he was right, and I was angry with the board, whoever they were. Why did they have to change the rules when it was my turn to win the jacket? Those were the days of belief and innocence. Martha was highly disappointed, and in order to calm herself down, she needed to be alone. So she locked herself in the bathroom so as to get rid of her frustration. She thought about her grandfather's words and knew that he was right to a certain extent, but was angry with the board, their rules, and their being unjust towards her. Martha, who was perplexed as how the rules changed to win the jacket, as it was the school's tradition. It was a very sad and withdrawn girl who tracked into the principal's office the next day. This time he did look me in the eyes. "What did your grandfather say?" I sat very straight in my chair. "He said to tell you he won't pay the $15. Martha today was weak, disheartened, silent, as she dragged herself towards the principal's office. The next day, this time the principal looked directly in her eyes, for he was sure that the answer she would give him was a big no. The principal knew it very well that Martha's grandfather would not be able to pay for the jacket, and that is why he asked the reply of her grandfather. So Martha, without saying a single word, sat straight in her chair. The principal again asked, "Has your grandfather told you he won't be able to pay the $15? The principal muttered something I couldn't understand under his breath and walked over to the window. He stood looking out at something outside. He looked bigger than usual when he stood up. He was a tall, gaunt man with grey hair, and I watched the back of his head while I waited for him to speak. Martha could hear the principal murmur or mumble something, which she couldn't understand, as he walked towards the window. He looked outside at something. That day he was tall, as usual, thin and tired looking man with grey hair. "Why," he finally asked, "your grandfather has the money. He owns a 200-acre ranch." I looked at him, forcing my eyes to stay dry. "I know, sir, but he said if I had to pay for it, then it wouldn't be a scholarship jacket." I stood up to leave. "I guess you'll just have to give it to Joanne." He questioned Martha why her grandfather couldn't pay for the jacket, for he owns a 200-acre land. Martha controlled her feelings and spoke confidently without even thinking once. She said her grandfather can easily buy the scholarship jacket, but he is a person of principles and has always taught her to be honest no matter what may happen. So if she'll pay for it, then it wouldn't be called a scholarship jacket. So she stood up and also commented that you better give it to Joanne, who can easily afford it. I hadn't meant to say that. It had just slipped out. I was almost at the door when he stopped me. Martha, wait. Martha did not speak these words intentionally. It just slipped out from her tongue. Martha was at the door and about to leave, but was stopped by the principal. I turned and looked at him, waiting. What did he want now? I could feel my heart pounding loudly in my chest. Something bitter and real, tasting was coming up in my mouth. I was afraid I was going to be sick. I didn't need any sympathy speeches. He sighed loudly and went back to his big desk. He watched me, biting his lip. Martha turned back, her heart thumping loudly. She was not feeling well, but did not want the principal to sympathize her. The principal took a deep breath loudly and spoke. Okay, we'll make an exception in your case. I'll tell the board you'll get your jacket. I could hardly believe my ears. I spoke in a trembling rush. Oh, thank you, sir. The principal told Martha that we'll consider your case. I'll tell the board and you will definitely get your reward. Martha couldn't believe what she was hearing. A trembling voice, and in a trembling voice, she thanked the principal. Suddenly, I felt great. I didn't know about adrenaline in those days, but I knew something was pumping through me, making me feel as tall as the sky. I wanted to yell, jump, run the mile, do something. I ran out so I could cry in the hall where there was no one to see me. Immediately after hearing what Martha had been longing for from a long time, she felt energized as if adrenaline hormone has secreted. Martha was feeling as if she is on cloud nine. She wanted to express her happiness by yelling, jumping, running the mile, or doing anything that pleases her. So she ran out to the room out towards the hall where she could cry as much as possible. Children, now come to page number 144. At the end of the day, Mr. Schmidt winked at me and said, I hear you are getting the scholarship jacket this year. His face looked as happy and innocent as a baby's, but I knew better. Without answering, I gave him a quick hug and ran to the bus. At the end of the day, Mr. Schmidt winked at Martha and spoke in an extremely happy and innocent voice. He said he has heard that she is going to get the scholarship jacket this year. He looked as innocent as a baby who did a lot for Martha. Without replying, Martha gave Mr. Schmidt a quick hug as a token of love and respect towards what all he did for her, and then ran towards the bus. I cried on the walk home again, but this time the tears were of happiness. I couldn't wait to tell Grandpa and ran immediately to the field. I joined him in the row where he was working, and without saying anything, I crouched down and started pulling up the weeds with my hands. Grandpa worked alongside me for a few minutes, and he didn't ask what had happened. After I had a little pile of weeds between the rows, I stood up and faced him. Martha said that this time too, on her way back home, she cried, but the tears were of happiness rather than grief. She couldn't wait to meet her grandfather, so she went directly to the fields where her grandfather was working. And without saying anything, she too started working along with him patiently. But she couldn't wait more and told her grandfather. The principal said, "He's making an exception for me, Grandpa, and I'm getting the jacket after all. That's after I told him what you said." Grandpa didn't say anything. He just gave me a pat on the shoulder and a smile. He pulled out the crumpled red handkerchief that he always carried in his back pocket and wiped the sweat off his forehead. "Better go see if your grandmother needs any help with supper." Martha couldn't wait any more to tell her grandfather that the principal said that this time he will make an exception for Martha and she is only going to get the jacket. She was very, very happy. And all this happened just when she spoke, when she told the principal what her grandfather had replied to his question. Martha's grandfather didn't say anything. He just gave her a pat on the shoulder and smiled at her. He very casually took out her wrinkled red colored handkerchief and wiped the sweat from his forehead, and even asked Martha to go and help grandmother in preparing supper. This shows a very casual attitude of the grandfather after even hearing such a big news of happiness. I gave him a big grin. He didn't fool me. I skipped and ran back to the house, whistling some silly tune. Martha smiled back at her grandfather, for he was the only one who didn't fool her and made her stick to her principles. She merrily slipped and ran back to the house, whistling a silly tune. So, children, this is all about the scholarship jacket and the way the grandfather taught Martha to stick to her principles, to be honest. He also taught Martha that hard work never pays off. Hard work always give you reward if your action is right. And hard work always leads to success. So thank you so much for watching the video, children. You can now see the summary as well as the different themes being portrayed in the story. Children, let's quickly recap. You can read about Martha. She's an 8th grade American girl who lives in Texas with her grandparents. Martha belonged to a poor family. She's a skinny girl and not very pretty either. She was very intelligent and gets great grades and won the school scholarship jacket. You can see the scholarship jacket, children. Alright, let us now see what it is. The jacket is given to the student with highest grades each year as an award for their hard work. Now, the first theme of the story. One theme that is recognized in this story is that you shouldn't have to pay for an award that you worked hard for or deserve. Now, let's see the second theme of the story. The scholarship jacket is that hard work pays off. Martha had worked hard, getting great grades for 8 straight years. She got the scholarship jacket because she deserved it despite any of her family financial issues. Now let us summarize. The story The Scholarship Jacket is about a girl named Martha who wants the jacket. Martha has worked hard to get this jacket, but it is a challenge to get it when the school wants her to pay for it. In the end, Martha gets the jacket that she deserves without having to pay for it. Alright, children, that's all for today. Take care of yourself, stay healthy, stay safe. Thanks for watching.